This is CBC Vancouver News.
Absolute hell.
Another slow, sopping, snowy commute for people across the south coast.
Definitely icy conditions for tomorrow morning's commute.
And it's not over yet.
We need to ensure that we're providing those services to people and supporting people in this province.
Big spending and back to deficits. The BC government unveils its provincial budget.
I just simply ask people, do you feel better off than you were 6 years ago?
What it means for you. And the benefits of Bhangra.
Before, I wasn't that strong and I didn't know how to do the moves, and now I know how to do all the moves.
A new study dives into what it does for the heart health of South Asian children. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. If you spent extra time waiting for a bus or stuck in traffic because of the snow and slush today, brace yourselves. Tomorrow morning's commute could bring ice, all part of the latest blast of winter across the south coast. The CBC's John Hernandez was in the middle of it.
Most travelers here don't need a whole lot of words to describe their morning commute.
Awful, just awful.
Treacherous.
Absolute hell.
It took Amy Heron nearly 3 hours to get from South Vancouver to a medical clinic on Broadway.
I transferred to Knight Street and was waiting for the bus there, and a huge truck went by and I got soaked with slush and ice water from here all the way to my toes.
While others waited for buses and trains that simply never came.
It wasn't possible to go on the transit because there was no transit at all. So we have to walk all the way to over there in the snow, so it was horrible.
TransLink says the snow and ice caused heavy delays through the morning, while temporary road closures, including northbound traffic on the Lionsgate Bridge, also forced buses to reroute before later reopening.
Service has resumed in Vancouver, although there will be delays. TransLink is, as you know, always in constant communication with municipalities, recommending which roads most need salting and plowing.
While a number of university campuses stayed open, snow accumulation on roads up to Burnaby Mountain forced SFU to make a last-minute decision to close its campus for the day.
I thought that they were going to send out something a little bit sooner, but that didn't happen, so I was a little bit, frazzled in the morning.
Conditions improved through much of the afternoon, reducing snow and ice to puddles and slush on many roads. But Environment Canada warns temperatures could drop again overnight.
We're going to drop below freezing, so definitely icy conditions for tomorrow morning's commute, so definitely be aware of that.
Another potential curveball that some have grown accustomed to.
Bundle up, make sure you're going to be nice and toasty, and expect the unusual. And then go on your journey.
Conditions on the roads did improve through the day. A similar story at Vancouver International Airport, which did see delays on Tuesday, but officials said by the evening, full service was resumed. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
The BC government is getting ready to spend big, and with it, go into deficit. It unveiled its provincial budget today with a lot of new dollars for the next fiscal year. Healthcare is seeing the most money with $6.4 billion in new spending. This includes services for people with substance use issues, mostly geared towards treatment and recovery beds. The next highest spending is on housing and reducing homelessness. That's at $4 billion. So what are the key takeaways for you? The K-12 food program in schools is being expanded. The BC Family Benefit is going up between $75 and $750 a year. And BC will become the first in Canada to offer free prescription birth control. A new $400 renter's tax credit is coming as well. It is means tested, and the maximum climate action tax credit is going up, but that's to offset a sizable rise in the carbon tax, which you will pay at the pump. The CBC's Mira Baines has more on the affordability push, especially for renters.
The renter's tax credit is a targeted measure to help with the cost of living. It's aimed at low to moderate income earners. So families that make under $60,000 a year will get a tax credit of about $400 a year. If they make more than that, so households making up to $80,000 a year will get a partial tax credit. A renter's rebate was promised 6 years ago, and back then $400 a year might have helped more. It's roughly $33 in a tax credit per month as it stands. UBC professor with Generation Squeeze, Paul Kershaw, says the larger issue is rising housing prices.
I think the renters tax credit delivers on a promise made in an election campaign from the past. I think delivering on promises matters. Will $400 a year transform the ability for people to afford rent in this province? Absolutely not. But it's, one additional incremental help.
There's a lot of big spending into a deficit. BC Finance Minister Katrine Conroy says that's because the economy is set to slow down and families are going to face tougher times. Economic growth this year is set at 0.4%. And we're also heading towards an election in 2024. So we're seeing a lot of affordability measures across the board. There's something for everyone in this budget. We're seeing tax credits and money for families, for school kid lunch programs and renters. For example, BC is going to become the first province to offer free contraception. Some women face the difficult choice of choosing between groceries and buying contraception. It's about $25 a month. This is what one advocate had to say.
There's such a direct link between period poverty and menstrual health. And so the ability now to actually have accessible contraception is just such an incredible step forward, I think, for people who are facing poverty, who are trying to deal with complex menstrual health issues. And so we're happy to see that today.
And we should know Premier David Eby still has a significant surplus to spend by the end of March. That's about $3 billion. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
Now, some critics are wondering what this budget actually does for small businesses in the province, especially as the economy is expected to slow. Here's what some had to say.
We are giving this budget overall a C- in the areas of tax competitiveness, economic vision, and fiscal prudence. And it comes at a time where costs have already been increasing for businesses, including things like the employer health tax, $2.7 billion this year. Our members have been calling for a reduction in the cost of doing business for a very long time. And instead, we're seeing these increase in costs like the massive carbon tax increase.
To some rather late-breaking other budget news now, passed a week earlier than expected with very little notice. Tonight, Vancouver City Council voted to approve its 2023 budget with a 10.7% increase to the average property tax, a record high this century. The original draft budget had a 9.7% increase, but this morning, Mayor Ken Sim said an increase was necessary to fund greater improvements for core city services like policing and clean streets. The city says the budget will cost the average single-family homeowner an extra $326 next year, while the average condo owner will pay $124 more, though that does not include increases to utilities. Again, the budget passed a week earlier than expected because councillors made that decision on the floor tonight. To other news now, Friday night's explosion in downtown Vancouver caused thousands of dollars in damage to a local coffee shop. And the company's boss says they won't really fully open for months, noting that damage could have been much worse.
It's just unbelievable. Like anybody, if somebody was walking by, they would have been incinerated. If it had been the summer, we would have had at that time of day potentially people sitting on our patio.
The blast has been linked to a BC hydroelectrical vault. The owner says hydro should help cover costs and lost employee wages. Hydro says the explosion was a rare occurrence and it's looking into how and why it happened.
It's too early to say what caused the fire, but investigating the root cause is a top priority for us, but it's going to take some time. We've preserved the equipment that was destroyed, and we're going to send it to a third party for a thorough analysis as part of our investigation. Our equipment is designed to be in place safely for many decades and is inspected regularly. So age is not what could have led to something like this, and that's why the investigation into the cause is of the utmost importance.
Mead says he's trying to find work for his employees at other locations. A Toronto man mistakenly shot twice by Vancouver police with less lethal rounds last week wants all the officers involved to be fired. He's speaking out after he was hit with those rounds that still left him in agony. As Liam Britton tells us, police admit they messed up.
The damage was physical and psychological.
I have nightmares. Being outside by myself is really a lot. I've never really had to feel so hyper aware of my surroundings before, and I can't relax.
40-year-old Elijah Barnett came to Vancouver for a relaxing visit with friends and family, but he's leaving with severe bruises, the result of a traumatic experience. Barnett was walking a friend's dog on Richard Street downtown around 5:20 Wednesday afternoon. That's when police surrounded him. He says he never got a chance to explain himself before they started shooting.
They shot first, asked questions later, 100%. They didn't approach me, nobody approached me at all.
Barnett says he was slammed with beanbag rounds. Police called them rubber bullets. Either way, he was badly injured. Police arrested him. He didn't have his wallet with ID on him. A police dog was barking in his face. Barnett says the ordeal lasted hours. Paramedics had to attend to him, and police eventually let him go.
It was just face down on the street in front of everybody. It was terrifying.
The shooting happened here, near the corner of Richards and Pacific. Now, VPD say they've apologized to Barnett, and they are confirming that the incident was a case of mistaken identity. Vancouver police say they thought Barnett was a different man who was wanted on a Canada-wide warrant for a violent home invasion in Calgary. They thought he may have been armed with a gun.
We believed that we were arresting that suspect. Obviously, we weren't, and that's an unfortunate situation. We didn't realize that until after the arrest had been made.
Barnett has filed a complaint with the Office of the Police Complaints Commissioner. That watchdog confirmed VPD also reported the use of a less lethal gun injury as required, adding there will be an investigation into the circumstances surrounding this incident under the civilian oversight of the OPCC, and a police agency will be assigned in due course. The use of so-called less lethal weapons by VPD drew concern last year. Chris Amiot, an Ojibwe father of 8, died after being shot with a beanbag in August. Police say they tried to de-escalate. Community members are doubtful. The Independent Investigations Office is probing that incident. Barnett believes he's lucky he was only injured.
The police in Vancouver are out of control. They've been out of control for a really long time, and this just goes to show. I feel really violated.
Barnett wants the cops involved to be reprimanded, suspended, and banned from using weapons ever again. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Police are analyzing that explosive device found near a fast food restaurant in Kelowna yesterday.
Last night, the EDU team rendered the IED safe. Our initial investigation has shown that the IED is not linked to any other incidents throughout the city or the province, and there is no evidence that this was a targeted event. Regardless, we take this matter very seriously.
The Mounties say investigators are running forensic tests to figure out what was inside and what it was meant for. A passerby found it in a grassy area outside of Wendy's, causing Highway 97 to be shut down for hours. If the device had been activated, police say it would have exploded. Back to our weather for a moment. The world is getting warmer because of climate change. So why then do we continue to see such intense snowstorms? It may seem like a contradiction, but our Johanna Wagstaff explains how it's actually all connected.
I know what you're thinking. If the planet is warming, shouldn't we be seeing less snow and therefore less snowstorms? Well, turns out we are seeing less snow on average, but our snowstorms are supercharged. How does that work? Hang on for this science ride. So first of all, we are getting less snow overall, but a warmer atmosphere can hold more moisture. It's one of the reasons why our rainstorms are becoming more intense with climate change. Also, more snow falls when temperatures are just below the freezing mark rather than when it's extremely cold. So areas of the world that are cold enough to get snow are warming to a temperature that they're actually seeing snowfall events coming down with more precipitation. Warmer oceans are also a factor. Warmer waters off the coast of Atlantic Canada are actually providing more energy for the temperature difference that actually drives those nor'easter storms in wintertime. Also, this. As the Arctic warms much faster than the rest of the world, new research is finding a connection to a weakened polar vortex. The band of strong winds that forms above the Arctic every winter is what encloses a large pool of extremely cold air. It's the temperature difference between this cold air and the air of the mid-latitudes that drives the speed of this circulation. It's basically a fence that keeps the coldest air up there. But as this Arctic warms and gets closer in temperature to those mid-latitudes, the polar vortex gets weaker and meanders more, stretching down to the south. More research is needed to make this connection a definitive one, but that meandering air is being cited as an explanation for recent freezing temperatures in snow in places like Texas. Global climate models actually project an increase in the extreme snowfall events across most of North America, but in other parts of the world, like Western Europe, they project an increase in winter rain rather than snow.
Improving cardiovascular health among South Asian children through dance. We're going to tell you about a new study looking into the benefits of Bhangra. Stick around. Hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream. Thanks for being here. A Vancouver-based artist didn't feel comfortable getting tattoos at traditional parlors, so he started his own, one where people from the queer community could be themselves without any judgment.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Cool. My name is James Slaughter, and I'm a tattoo artist. I think it's something that I was always interested in. I was getting tattoos at an early age, but there were always spaces that they were never comfortable. So they're primarily sort of like more straight male spaces, and not being a straight male, it sort of felt somewhat uncomfortable. And so it seemed very transactional. So I'd go into those spaces and I would get tattoos, and that was kind of it. I didn't really want to talk because I didn't want to sort of, I don't know, make the situation weird because this person is making a permanent mark on your body. So it wasn't until basically I started getting tattooed by women that I saw a space for myself, because it could be something different. In terms of making the space like queer focused, working in the queer community and people that get you, there's a lot of shorthand that's not needed. And I think also my experience of having been tattooed in spaces that maybe weren't, queer or outwardly queer, just kind of highlighted to me that other people would also appreciate being in spaces where there were other queer people, and just space where people are comfortable and feel like they can be themselves. I primarily focus on like figurative work, sort of emotion and intimacy, and because I sort of noticed that you don't see a lot of sort of romanticized images of men showing emotion, but I think to normalize men showing emotions, especially like sad emotions, and to have it be beautiful, to me, I thought was really important, and for me, resonated with myself personally, and also just to put those images out there. And I think I got a lot of response in people that were very supportive of that, because it wasn't something they'd seen before. Like a big part of this job for me is the connection that I have with people, and I want it to be a positive interaction, because they're going to have this mark on their body for their entire lives. Okay, that's it. People get tattoos for all different kinds of reasons, and I think to be the person that is facilitating that is a really big responsibility, and I try to make them as comfortable as possible, because I want them to sort of remember the experience as being a positive one. I feel really lucky that I get to do this as a living. It's not something I ever thought I would be able to do, especially focusing on like queer work and working within the queer community. So I just feel really lucky every day that I get to do that.
A new study out of UBC is looking at the cardiovascular health of the South Asian community and what the potential benefits of Bhangra dancing for kids. The results are still early, but as Michelle Gassoub reports, they suggest major improvements.
In a dance studio tucked away in Surrey, the music is blasting and the moves heart-pumping. This isn't just a regular dance class. It's also part of Project Bhangra, a UBC pilot study looking at how to improve the cardiovascular health of South Asian children. 156 kids aged 8 to 11 took Bhangra classes twice a week for 7 months to improve their cardio health, and the early results are promising.
We also saw improvements in vertical jump height, and that really measures muscle strength and power, as well as waist circumference, a reduction in waist circumference and body mass index.
South Asian children are at higher risk of heart disease compared to other children due to a combination of lifestyle and genetic factors, but exercise can be a powerful antidote to pre-existing risks.
Power actually is using from your legs, from your toes, from your calves, from your thighs, right?
UBC's early findings showed that after months of these classes, the kids can jump higher and run more laps in a timed beep test. But the instructors found there are even more benefits, like increased self-confidence and new friendships.
The parents always come up to us, hey, our kid cannot go outside, talk to anybody, sits in the room all the time. But after a couple of months, it changes the whole scenario. The kid is more outgoing, more talkative.
What's your favorite move?
Should I show you?
Yeah, show me.
That confidence also caught on camera.
Before, I wasn't that strong and I didn't know how to do the moves, and now I know how to do all the moves. I've been coming for a long time, and then when I'm doing exercise and hard moves, then I can get stronger. I have more energy each day to like run and stuff because of Bhangra.
Project Bhangra is now hoping to continue the research and expand the pilot from 4 schools to 20.
It really makes me happy that we were able to come up with an exercise, again, that it's culturally based. Parents love it, kids love it.
A way to connect to culture and build healthy habits, all while having fun. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Surrey.
There's a live shot of the Inner Harbour in Victoria. Busy day at the legislature today with the budget. Slush today, though. Ice tomorrow. It could be a slick one for commuters. Johanna will have your BC-wide forecast. I should say Amy will have it after this.
Low-paying jobs are the fastest-growing industry in Canada. They increased by 33% between 1981 and 1986, and that trend is continuing. At McDonald's, nearly a quarter of its 8,000 BC employees earn the minimum wage. If they're over 18, that's $4.50 an hour. All told, about 65,000 BC workers earn the minimum wage, and some say that's a scandal.
Minimum wages in North America are generally a scandal and have been for the last decade, and the reason is because governments have just been abandoning them to inflation.
Jean Swanson says BC's minimum wage in 1975 provided an income above the poverty line. Since then, it's fallen below. Last night at a meeting in Kamloops, Cabinet Minister Claude Richmond, who's in charge of welfare, not the minimum wage, unexpectedly announced the rate would soon be going up to $5 an hour. The Premier, who was at the meeting, was surprised, but didn't deny it.
Well, it seemed as though there was some sort of an announcement along that line. I would like to leave confirmation of this with the Minister of Labour, but obviously it's being considered.
This morning, the minister actually responsible for the minimum wage responded.
Well, we're always reviewing the minimum wage. Why do you ask the question?
Well, apparently Mr. Richmond said it would be going up to $5 this summer. Is that your understanding of it?
There's been no decision to do that.
I think it's clearly a matter of political gamesmanship, and I think the small business doesn't appreciate it.
And Oksana Excel, who represents many people who pay the minimum wage, says the rate should stay where it is.
First of all, the minimum wage went up just 8 months ago. So first of all, the timing's bad. It's too soon, and it's too much. In fact, what we're seeing is a 25% increase in a very short period of time, and it will put BC at the top in terms of provincial rates across the country.
But over at the Hospitality Industry Education Advisory Committee, where many of those who work in low-paying service industry jobs are trained, there's a feeling the rate should go up.
You have to pay your medical bills and your rent and your food, and if you have a child or two, you have to look after them. How are you going to do it at $4.50?
People should not have to work and still be in poverty. We should not be a society that demands that our citizens become slaves in order to pay the rent.
Meanwhile, over at McDonald's, a spokesman said if the minimum rate does go up to $5 an hour, the restaurant will have no choice but to make the price of a Big Mac even bigger. Rod Mickelborough, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. On March 29th, join Leanne Young at the Zilly Cares Conversation on Care, a mental health fundraiser with special guests Dr. Gabor Mate and Dr. Mariam Zainadin. Get your tickets at zillycare.com. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
Before we get to weather, you may have been one of many people caught off guard by the recent snowfall, especially when it comes to footwear.
I have winter boots, but I packed them up. So I decided to wear sneakers. And basically, I'm from Russia, and this weather is not new to me.
I'm from Alberta, so sensible footwear is a must. Yeah. Everyone hates soggy feet. I don't know what they're doing.
I could have better shoes, I guess, for the snow. You get a lot of people here that I know also don't have good shoes, but having stuff that's not waterproof at least sometimes catches me off guard just because it rains here a lot.
They're great. I wear them all the time. I'm from the interior, so we get snow all the time. This is mild, and yeah, I enjoy winter, so it's fine. And the snow, yeah, the boots are comfortable and they keep the snow out.
These like waterproof shoes, and they're holding up really well actually. So I don't know, because they're made the same as my jackets, but yesterday I wore Nikes. Not a smart choice. Not at all. The shoes don't make it summer.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Amy Bell is here for a BC-wide weather forecast on a day that had a cavalcade of slush and delays and muck and I don't know what else.
It was gross.
It was.
That's what it was.
I'm sure some ducks enjoyed it somewhere, you know, Trout Lake or flying around. It's not about them, though.
Sure, I'm not one of those ducks.
There
though.
you go,
It was
exactly.
a
And if
difficult
anybody
day.
says otherwise, that's
It's
it.
on.
It's on.
Yeah, it was a difficult day for a lot of people, weather-wise at least. I don't know about anything else. But yeah, we started off with that snow. That system just stuck over us. It came in yesterday afternoon and then overnight and early into the morning. We continued to see that snow falling. It was that real wet, heavy snow, so it was difficult to maneuver for everybody on the roads. And yes, it was just a bit of a mess. Thankfully, the worst has passed us, though, and we will see things settling down and also warming up a little bit. So that is good news, but very calm the last few hours. We saw some late day clearing, and we'll actually see partially clear skies overnight. Now, we will see a bit more precipitation over the next couple of days, but nothing like we saw. Our next chance of having a little bit of snow will be sort of tomorrow night in through early Thursday morning. Tonight, we're going to stay partially clear, and we'll really see that temperature dropping. So the biggest issue will be all of that slush that remains freezing over. So again, early tomorrow morning could be a little bit dicey for other reasons. But we do have this other system setting up off the coast, and that will bring in rain with warmer temperatures, though, for the end of the week into the weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that. So definitely keep the umbrellas handy. You're not necessarily going to need the snow boots for much longer. We will have a slight chance of some wet flurries in areas of Hope. Around Hope, Whistler as well. We'll be dealing with flurries. Nothing unusual there. You're looking at some flurries for Prince George, wet with some wet snow early tomorrow morning for Prince Rupert up the north coast, snow in Dease Lake, and not looking too bad for the Kootenays, for the Okanagan. A chance of some showers and then some late day clearing. And for us, predominantly, we're just trending warmer and wetter for the next several days.
Yeah, the diagram would suggest exactly that. Good.
That's what we're used to.
There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is your late news for Tuesday. Thank you for being here tonight. For news anytime, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. If you have to commute tomorrow, be safe.